Hi, my name's Alison Wearing, and I'm the author of 3 memoirs. The most recent is called Moments of Glad Grace. And I'm here to talk to you about 3 things you'll want to consider when writing memoir. The first is that memoir and autobiography are not the same thing. So an autobiography is the story of a life, and it tends to cover all the bases, the important dates and accomplishments and so on. But memoir, by contrast, is a story from a life. So it tends to be a very narrowly focused story that only aims to cover one aspect or one period of time or one relationship rather than trying to cover the whole thing. Now, the paradox about this narrow focus is that that is precisely what allows us to go very deeply, because we are not trying to cover everything. So a lot of people, I would say most people in my workshops, and I teach a lot of memoir writing workshops, the vast majority of people are trying to cover way too much territory. And they're, by the time we get to the stage in our lives where we're interested in writing about them, we tend to have had full, rich lives with lots of relationships and journeys and careers and revelations and so on. And people tend to want to try to cover it all. So I would caution you and reassure you that the narrower the focus of your memoir, in fact, the easier time you will have of it, and the less likely you will be to get lost. So when you read memoir, you may begin to notice that this person is not actually trying to cover the whole range of life, but they have limited themselves very deliberately. And that has allowed them to write something that is profound and interesting to more than just them. Which brings me to point number 2, which is, contrary to popular opinion, memoir is not actually about you, which may surprise you. Now, it's not that it doesn't paint the story of an aspect of your life, but in order for memoir to be successful, in order for memoir to appeal to more than just, say, you or the people in your family or the people who were also there in that event or period of time, memoir must actually have what I call skywriting. It must actually also tell a bigger story, or rather, your little personal story is but an illustration of a much larger, generally universal theme, such as grief or a coming of age or a coming out of some way, stepping into the truth of oneself, a resolution of some kind. There are many, many themes now that are universal in life. And what you will also notice if you review the memoirs that you love is that they are not only telling the details of a personal story, they are also referencing or allowing you to resonate with their story because they're tapping into something actually much greater than just their own story. And so that's something really important. And that is what takes, so this is why a memoir is not just this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then this happened, and then I went here, and then I met this person, and then, are you bored already? Yes, we're all bored already. That's actually not the interesting part of memoir, and it's why you don't need to have led a fabulously wild and exciting life in order to make a really interesting memoir. The stuff of memoir, some stories are harrowing and fascinating in and of themselves, but that is also not enough. A harrowing story does not a great memoir make. That's not the direct equation. It's not just about great writing, but it's also this recognition that we are not writing about ourselves, but through ourselves to something greater. And point number 3, I think I've forgotten point number 3. I'll just make one up. Do you have to have permission to tell your story? How about that? A lot of people come with that question, no? Do I have permission? Do I need permission? And the truth is, the only person qualified to write your story is you. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to respect the people in your story. On the contrary, great memoir actually respects all of its characters. So it's not therapy. It's not axe grinding. It's not the work that we do privately often to process our story and prepare it to become memoir. Because in order for a story to be ready to be written about as art, it needs to have separated from us in some way. We can't be holding it so close to our chest anymore. Rather than my story, the thing that has shaped me into who I am, it needs to become a story that I will shape as a writer and have perspective on. And so I will be able to see the people in my story as characters, myself as a character. And in order for that to happen, there's some work that needs to be done. Often time is that work, but sometimes it can take the form of therapy. But that will be done, or largely done, by the time we set down to write it as a story that will resonate for other people. Because if it's still charged, so charged that we need them to respond a certain way or feel a certain way about a certain character, it's not quite ready yet. And the permission question is one that we can only ever grant ourselves. We can't, some people, I suppose, can ask everyone in their family if it's okay if they write and so on. But I think that what I try to encourage people to do when they come to my workshops is just write for themselves first. The only permission you need at this point to set your story down into words is your own permission to do that. And you can worry later about what happens if it gets on Oprah and sells 1 million copies or whatever it is, or when it's published, or that's a later question. And there will be a lot of work between now and then that will be done in the course of the writing that may help to answer those questions. But I find that permission question can actually stop people right off the block. And all you're doing right now is exploring. And so give yourself permission to explore and see what you have. And honor the people in your story as you would wish to be honored in theirs. Okay, well, there are 3 things, and 3 pretty important pieces actually of memoir writing. So I wish you well with it. Enjoy the process and be prepared to go to unexpected places. Often the gems of our stories are found in corners we hadn't thought to look in. So thanks very much.